game testing exhaustion. I guess that's what I could call it. It's that I'm trying so hard to concentrate on this same idea over and over and over again that it just decontextualizes and then becomes this diffuse abstraction that I just can no longer keep in frame. It's under there, you can't see it. This is some failed, well, no, not failed, just undeveloped prototype for some different type of puzzle. These are just made from little bolts. And you spin the heads off in a drill and sand them smooth, and then it's constrained to this track, which is kind of a T groove. You use a keyhole bit on a router to do it. That puzzle, it's a little less interesting than what I'm working on that's under here, which I'm not even going to show you a hint of because it's not ready. And this is the thing that I'm talking about I'm suffering exhaustion from, because I just can't play it anymore. If you remember Isopath, sorry, I'm going to diverge here for a second. I know it's annoying. My niece was over yesterday, so I have all these toys out. You know, it's like a cave of wonders in here to come and look at all the toys and puzzles and oddities that I have around this place. Oh, here's the other version of that puzzle. And here's another version. I made multiple prototypes. But this is not the topic of... Oh yeah, diversion again. I put some light in there. I also put this, what is it called? Acrylic. So I laid acrylic glass over top of the workbench. I could never stand that work surface. It was structure wood that was painted, which is simply awful. I did it a long time ago because it was inexpensive. So Mrs. Pocket dug up from somebody she knew, met, whatever, an old YMCA sign, and they were taking it down, and the acrylic glass was destined to go in the garbage, so we repurposed it, and it's nice and smooth and clean, and I expect that it's glossy now and it'll suffer a lot of wear from abrasion, but in the meantime, it's a nice flat surface. It's like a big clipboard that I can draw on, and I pushed it all the way against the wall here, and then the LED light, it comes up through the back, and that's pretty sweet looking. Especially for being on video too, it adds some visual appeal. So I thought you would think that's cool. 3 minutes in, let me get to the point. Sorry about all the diversions. Scratch that, the diversion was the point. Please excuse me, but I need to give my brain a break. I've been playing the same game over and over again, and I really wish that I could include you. I would love to show it to you, but it's just not ready, and I'm sorry to say that, to do this teaser thing, but the point is that I wanted to capture on film the struggle. The struggle is real, to play the same game over and over again. I did this with Isopath too. This box is Isopath. It's what Isopath has been reduced to, that is. There's the main game board I have up in my game room, but this is all the prototypes and the parts that are associated with it all. Some felt and some different types of stones and tiles. I guess apparently I made a backup set because I have a marble set upstairs. Oh, another backup set too. Yeah, sometimes when I make things, I make multiples while I have all the jigs and such set up. And, you know, just to further express the purpose here, you're supposed to be my friend, and I'm venting to you over the frustrations involved with the process. So think of it as like a catharsis. I'm not complaining, I'm just expressing that there's a mental fatigue that's associated with game development, and that's exactly what this is. I'm in the stage with that game that I was in with this prior to its release. I was testing, playing with myself endlessly, and playing a lot with Mrs. Pocket, who gets, well, sick of playing the game over and over again just to test it, and it's tiresome. And so here's the Isopath board set up, if I can remember how to play. The video for this and just the reception of Isopath in general wasn't as good as I was hoping. I really thought it was a great game, and I still do. I stand behind it, and that was a little bit of a letdown. The premise is that if you haven't seen this, for shame, you shouldn't even be on this channel if you aren't familiar with this, because it's kind of like my crown jewel. Okay, so the premise is as follows. Black is down here on the board, and when it's your turn, you move one of these tiles, and then you can move one of the pieces. You place the tile somewhere else. White's constrained to the top row, and so, yeah, go look up the rules. It's a cool game. It really is. I enjoy it. So, right now at the state of development that I'm in with the game that I'm working on, I'm trying to decide. Oh geez, it's so hard because you don't know what I'm talking about. But it does involve pieces that move back and forth like this. And so it's related. It also has depth like Isopath does. It's not something that would be easily expressible in terms of like a two-dimensional representation. Say like a checkerboard, you can look at it like this and see two-dimensionally how the game operates. Isopath has a depth that makes it a little more difficult to express in a two-dimensional representation. You could do it with Isopath, but with this other game that I'm working on, I don't think you even can. I shouldn't say that. You can express just about anything in two-dimensional representation. But the problem that I'm working on right now, think of checkers. You know how as you move back and forth over the map on checkers, if one checker gets to the end and you say king me, and then your piece has like new superpowers where it can move back and forth. I'm in kind of a similar dilemma over deciding what I should do with the rules in terms of making it such that if you get to the other side, do you win? Or if you get to the other side, do you get a new piece that has more options available to it? And each of those options will, depending on the decision that I make, will affect the game in terms of its complexity. But so far, I'm excited. I like the game. I can't rush it. And I don't want to make the mistake of putting it out there before it's completely tested well enough that I can stand behind it. If you look at a hexagon, there you can approach it as though it has 3 dimensions or axes, or however lines of symmetry. I don't know how you want to describe it, but that makes Isopath also, you can play it as a 3-player game. Like you could put white here, black here, and then another color here, designated as green usually. When I released Isopath, I had not worked out all the bugs in 3-player yet, so the rules remained unfinished. I was never able to. Well, at first when I was in development and I was in this burnout phase where I couldn't think, which I'm in right now with this new game, and I just couldn't see the proof that the 3rd player, the neutral player, that would stay up on this tile, not down here, not up here, but here, the 0 level tile. I couldn't see the proof of that player having an advantage. And when I did finally accept it, I couldn't come up with a way to neutralize that advantage in gameplay in a way that I still found, what's the word, elegant. And so returning to game X here, I just don't want to release it until I've ironed out all of those kinks. So for today, I just want to go stare at the water and try to work the wrinkles out of my brain. so far as I understand it, the game is a zero-sum perfect information game. And I'm trying to keep it that way. And it does have a spatial component to it. Well, this is pretty far away from the house, but I don't want that swampiness. I'm afraid I'm going to have to bring some fill in here, because I just can't get it to go down there. Well, let's check and see if there's a clog. Probably, because I haven't raked any of this out since I moved here and we trenched this. The trick to moving water is that you just give it a direction, and then it helps to clean its own path. That's probably a pretty obvious statement. I told you I'm in like a state of mental fatigue, so I might be stating the obvious here. It's like it's profound to say that water runs downhill, but it kind of is. I mean, you get it to dig its own trench after a certain level of establishment. See? There is something satisfying about a well-functioning stream, is there not? Okay, sorry I didn't include you, but I needed two hands and I don't have a tripod. I did get a good deal of it to drain out. That's much better. But if we go to the other side of what is my property, it's that way. We can see the larger stream, and that one doesn't require maintenance really. Not in the same, it's just not as picky as this because it's not as small. Like I said, once a water establishes a path, it maintains itself naturally. Okay, let's go over there and then I'll show you. Look at that. Working out quite nicely, huh? I mean, it keeps it dry there. Yeah, the dripping gets it a little wet there, but it dries out really quickly. All told, I'm satisfied with it. I would repeat something like it. Okay, forward. This one is much bigger. I actually considered turning this into a dam. Without a wide-angle lens, it would be hard for you to appreciate this, but it's kind of a natural bowl right here, and it could easily be made to, well, I don't know about swimming depth, but certainly maybe up to your chin depth with no problem. It would just require a really small earthen dam right there along the center of the camera, or along the center of the frame. I don't think I'm going to do it though. Maybe in the long term. But for now we have a little wading pool. I'll show it to you. Obviously this is much nicer in the summer. But it's also subject to the drought. It actually dried out for a while over the summer. Not really deep enough to swim, but, well, Mrs. Pocket went in. She got hot from her run and jumped in. I thought she was nuts because it was kind of cold that day. Cold for a summer day, but she was hot enough to swim. I suppose it's probably different for everybody. But for me, at least, and please don't give me a diagnosis. I don't like those presumptuous the diagnosis as though you understand my mental health. You don't know me that well. But I will tell you about my creative process. It feels like when I'm... Oh, dear. Can you see them? I don't know if they'll show up in frame or not. As I was saying, it feels like, for me, it seems like, that periods of productivity are offset by, you have to pay the price. It's kind of like drinking is fun, but you have to pay the price of the hangover. The price of the booze is relatively small by comparison. Similarly with periods of exhaustive activity, there's intense emotional, physiological, and mental fatigue that's associated with that, in my experience. I'm not saying that it's that way for everybody, but for me, man, it's tough. Like sometimes for every period of really fruitful activity, there's this corresponding just crash. It sucks, but it's a fact of life. So I wish that I could hurry up and finish the game before that crash happens. Oops. But I don't think I will be able to. For those of you who who are a little more temperate, and you don't have to kind of like squeeze in under the door at the last second, maybe procrastination is something that's a little easier to avoid. But for me, I find that I just tend to crash before something is finished, and then it's just too difficult to pick it back up. But in this case, in this game, it's too good to not release. It's beyond the point of where it's still vulnerable to procrastination. At this point, it's just it has to exist, and so my course is kind of set. I have no choice, and so I don't know what is the purpose here. What am I doing? I don't know. I just wanted to talk to you. And thanks, I appreciate that. Okay, I'm gonna go play a game by myself.